Hey, my name is Rhema Zlaten, and I am a professor in the Mass Comm department at CMU. And I'm going to be working with CSF starting this next fall. I teach journalism in the department, and so if you're ever interested in learning about journalism, come find me. I'd be happy to get you into an intro class. But my family's pretty new to the area. We just moved to Palisade actually last summer. And I am married to a man named Matt, and I have 3 kids who are all 7 and under. So our life is pretty full and busy, but we have really enjoyed our first year at CMU and living in the Grand Valley. There's several ways that I have seen college students become stuck this semester, especially. So I'll start there, and then I'll kind of move out beyond thinking through a pandemic, because we will be coming out of this time. I know it doesn't feel like it, but we will be coming out of this time. And with this semester especially, fear and anxiety definitely was what ruling most of my students and their interactions and their emotions. And that's perfectly understandable. But I think it definitely caused a lot of students to have tunnel vision and to not be able to focus throughout their days. And then they would start to see deadlines coming and then going, and they weren't doing work. And so they would begin to retreat further and further inside of themselves. And so I have learned personally, on a very practical level, that rhythms are very important. And so when we all moved to online school this semester, it was definitely a couple weeks of, where am I going to land? Where's my family going to land? Where do I live? I heard a lot of students having to wrestle with a lot of really hard questions. But once those settled in, and once my family settled in, I challenged myself and I said, okay, you are going to have to set a rhythm if you're going to get work done, if you're going to keep communicating, if you're going to keep growing. And so I got up and I got dressed just like I would get dressed for work, and I had a good breakfast. I started setting alarms on my phone throughout the day so that I would make sure to get outside, even if it was just take a walk around my neighborhood 1 block, or we live by a river, so walk down to the river for 10 minutes. And I made sure that those times weren't distracted times where I was on my phone, or maybe I would, for the first 5 minutes of that quick walk, I would let myself make a quick list in my mind, and then I would make myself shut that off and focus on being where I was, on noticing the bugs and the flowers popping up in my neighborhood, whatever that was, just taking a break from school, life, pandemic, the world. And I found those moments really helped ground me and bring me back to where I needed to be. And so then another way I saw students getting really stuck this semester was that some of them really stopped reaching out and stopped asking clarifying questions. And so I would offer over and over again every week in emails, I'd say, hey, I would love to hop on a Zoom call with you, or a phone call, whatever that looks like. Let me help you get back on track. I want to talk to you. I want to hear about what's going on in your life. I want to dialogue with you about what's confusing about the content I'm giving you. And honestly, I'm sure there's some professors who struggled with offering that, but I'd say most of us were just waiting on you all to come and talk to us. And when I did have those conversations with those students, I was able to help them turn around and get back on track. And in some situations that warranted, I extended deadlines, things like that. And so, especially in the situation we're in right now, we all knew that we all had to be somewhat flexible, but also still help keep everyone on track, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of just what I started talking about to everyone was, hey, what's your rhythm like? What are you doing to focus? And I think in some ways, being stuck is a moment in our lives where we lose sight of the bigger picture and what some of our dreams and goals are, right? We can only see the next week, few months ahead of us. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in those thoughts that keep us, stuck, for lack of a better word, of just only seeing our very current circumstances. But I keep reminding myself, and I keep reminding my students, like, why are you here? Why did you come to college in the first place? That vision, that dream has got to help you keep going, at least to finish out the semester. And then now let's talk about what's your next step and what's the best next step for you keeping those dreams alive. So when I was an undergrad, because I was an undergrad too, just like you, I definitely struggled a lot with overcommitting. And it's a tough balance, especially, if you're coming in for your first year, but even if it's your senior year, honestly, there's so many opportunities to get involved on campus. But I've come to recognize, especially later in my life, that when I start to feel a little bit of anxiety or panic creeping up, I pray, but then I also have to step back and go, what am I giving my time to? And am I actually giving it to what's important? And so I started encouraging students, like, you need to figure out what are your top 3 priorities every day. And so instead of making this huge list and just, looking at it falling to the floor essentially, and it's so long and you could never actually do it all. You're right. You could never actually do it all. But what if you prioritized the top 3 things? And as a student, of course, a huge part of that is going to be your schoolwork. But especially in a time of stuckness, if you will, that might mean that you need to become a student who is not a perfectionist, because you cannot spend 40, 45 hours a week anymore, or, getting so stuck on a project trying to make it perfect. It might just be that you go, I met the requirements. I'm going to submit this as it is and just let it go and be what it is. Submitting work like that will move you forward way more than agonizing over submitting something perfectly and then maybe even never submitting it at all. Those types of grades hurt you the most versus maybe getting even a D sometimes, but a C or a B, let's say, on projects. So that's the first thing, is like, how do you strip down your overcommitments? You can step out of stuff. You can say no, even if you said yes at the beginning of the semester. So as a student, you just have to brainstorm and go, what is the most important thing to me? And then when I've reached places in my life before where I have realized that I'm stuck and I just don't even know what to do next. The first thing I do is pray a really simple prayer. And it's basically just saying, God, what season is it in my life? And what I mean by that is, I believe that God does put us in specific times, whether it might be a really big growth season, or it might be a season where you need to step back and more rest and take obligations off of you that can be taken off of you. It might be a season where you have to boil down to what's actually important. And honestly, on a global scale, I think all types of people of all ages are having to answer this question right now, is really, what is important in my life? And in some ways, I think that this has been God's grace, where he's saying, I'm going to, we're stripping away all of the extra things that you were focusing on and you were doing. And I feel like he's saying, come to me and just ask me. I want to talk to you. I want to tell you who you are and what this time is to be for you. And so even outside of a pandemic time, right, in the rest of my life, that question has helped bring down my anxiety. It's going to be a meditative type of thing where if, every day you kind of start that with, God, show me what you need me to do today. And also keep showing me what's your vision for me for the next few months. Think about a season, right? In our world, we determine that as every 3 months. So you might start asking him, what do you have for me over the next 3 months? Anytime I've made a 5-year plan, it has never turned out the way it was supposed to be. And so you should have goals, but those goals are very flexible and should be about you allowing the Lord to nudge you in those smaller steps along the way. So yeah, those would be my 2 ideas. Don't overcommit, asking God what the season is for you, and that's like a practice for focusing on what's really important in your life.